I watched Section 31. It's on Paramount Plus. It is a 90-minute movie that was originally supposed to be
a pilot.
It's like a pilot for a TV show.
Yeah.
Okay.
It plays out just like a pilot for a TV show.
Right. So
does it?
Yeah.
I want to see for those who have seen this, your thoughts. And let me start. This is terrible. This is the worst. I tuned out. I watched the first 4 episodes of Discovery and could not watch any more of this new Paramount Star Trek. I know they're targeting a modern audience that does not exist. This does not feel like anything Star Trek. I have no sympathy for the lead character, in which we show her around a dinner with their family, murdering them so she can become
Giorgio,
the emperor, and then the her partner who did not follow through on that task is now sublimated to her. It's all a, why would I like this person? And then they do it. A lot of the action takes place in some futuristic bar, and the sets are so dark and small. There's no sense of scale.
They ripped it off from Mass Effect.
Let me finish. It looks like bad sets from Battle Beyond the Stars, a great script by John Sayles, and a really great score, and a fun movie, but the sets were kind of cheap. The sets reminded me of Battle Beyond the Stars. Small, dark, tiny. The action just by the numbers. Each character had one attribute. I'm beside myself with, like, I thought, why am I watching this? This owes nothing to Star Trek. There are no heroes you can get behind. The characters are very one-dimensional, and on every level it was bad. Mostly being the writing. I don't know, man. I don't know what to say. And people are saying, Rob, you went off. Rob, you were on fire. This is really the end of. I don't know how anyone who was an old fan of Star Trek could defend this. I don't know how the newer fans could say they like this thing. It's so that modern ideas about things. You know what I missed more than anything? A hopeful vision of the future with a hero I can admire, because faced with the same choice, Captain James T. Kirk would not have done what Philippa did. He would have found a way around it, the no-win scenario.
A monster.
You know what I mean? There's nothing to admire about this. Okay, for those who have seen it, please, I'd like to hear you chime in, and I want to savor every comment, because this is the end of Star Trek as an IP. I don't know where you go from here. This is terrible. And by the way, the main graphic to promote this show looks like an Axel Braun Star Trek XXX parody.
Actually,
what's wrong with
looks
that?
a little closer to this other terrible sci-fi show that was short-lived called Vagrant Queen. It used purple and yellow, and horrifically in this particular series or this movie, the fact that you have young Philippa Georgiou give us a monologue describing essentially Battle Royale, or for the more modern audience, Hunger Games, as a trial to try and find the next emperor, instead of showing us that, is a disservice to not only storytelling, but also to the audience as well. And in addition, they are so desperate in this show to have some Easter eggs that they end up aging up a really great character who was in an episode of Star Trek The Next Generation called Yesterday's Enterprise, Rachel Garrett, from a 44-year-old in the middle of the 23rd century to now a 110-year-old, because she is now 30 years old in the 2260s. And it just doesn't reconcile. It doesn't work. This is a really terrible, terrible show. And it's also a great disservice to a lot of the people that are actors in this, especially Michelle Yeoh, who I happen to know firsthand is a big science fiction fan. But I don't know why she was able to tolerate this unless they paid her one heck of a pretty penny, because she was holding out for a long time. And the only reason this went into production in this shape that it was is because she recently won an Academy Award.
Mm.
And it's tragic. The story doesn't make much sense. There's no drama to it. It's definitely missing the hopeful aspect of it as well. It perverts the idea of Section 31, which was also further enabled by Discovery making it an actual institution, as opposed to what I liked it before. Is it's a lone rogue agent who may or may not be associated with anything. We don't know.
Yeah.
And there's a mystery behind that. And in here, they're like, nope, we're going to try and Mission Impossible this. But no one who has worked on this show has ever actually seen or understood what a real Mission Impossible or Ocean's 11 type of story is. So we're just going to make it based on the vague understanding we have from seeing like trailers or clips on YouTube or reading a Wikipedia or something. I mean, what is the point of this story? What's it all
There's
about?
a goddamn neurodivergent Romulan with a fucking Ant-Man bug that has a Scottish accent. There's a Venom. Literally, Venom is one of the characters. An abomination on every level. That's not how the Terran Empire works. They don't understand anything. Every character was a DEI parody. It literally makes Acolyte look good and J.J. Abrams faithful to Star Trek. I'm not kidding. Yeah. Yes, Ellen. Yes, it does.
No, you're
It's
wrong.
fucking
You're
horrible.
You're 100% wrong. You wanna set it up?
I would watch Acolyte every day.
I would no.
So,
Acolyte is so
It-
much more worse than this.
I'll throw this out really quick, and Rob will appreciate this, and all the Star Trek fans listening will appreciate this. So it's kind of fascinating that they used the character of Rachel Garrett in this, because much like the episode of yesterday's Enterprise, they didn't know what episode that was going to be, because it was a very much cut and paste, trying to put together a very last minute type of production, much like Section 31. Only the difference being is that you have actually well-read, vetted writers working on a show and knowing how to put together a show, writing yesterday's Enterprise. And I don't know what the heck you had for Section 31.
Star Trek is worse.
But they had
Skeleton
the
Crew was
same-
more like Star
The only
Wars.
difference is Section
I can't believe
31
all the
had
love that
20
they
times
actually-
the budget.
Yeah, I'll defend this show for a second. It's okay. First of all, it's a bad show. It's a horrible show, bad writing and stuff. But I said in my review that this is the most enjoyable Star Trek of current Star Trek, excluding Picard season 3. I started watching Discovery. I stopped because it wasn't Star Trek. This thing has nothing to do with Star Trek, and that's why I found it more enjoyable. I likened it to the bad sci-fi and Ocean's 11 type shows from the 80s and 90s. I kept referring back to Las Vegas, starring James Caan. That's the kind of vibe and feel I got.
What a
and I was
fucking
actually
insult to
enjoying
that
it.
show.
But for me, hold on. For me to say that I enjoyed, Strange New World or Discovery or any of the current new Star Trek better than this would be a false statement. And believe me, this is a backhanded compliment. The best backhanded compliment I can give to Section 31. I would much rather watch this than any other current Star Trek at the moment.
Okay.
And no, I don't know why people are loving the Acolyte all of a sudden.
No, we're not. We're hating this. By the way, Las Vegas with James Caan was a great show. I don't know why you would throw that under the bus. This is just
Well,
all the way.
It was wonky along the way. Let's just put it that way. The
Wonky?
reason
Superman's
Las Vegas
eye was
worked was
wonky.
because the cast was hot, was super hot.
So is this
Robert?
the Acolyte of Star Trek? Like, is this going to put the final fork in this thing?
I
No,
don't
that
think
would be
this ruined
Starfleet
Star
Academy.
Trek like the Acolyte did. I mean, the Acolyte turned Yoda into a creepy creeper. The Acolyte put a negative light on the Jedi. Section 31 is a entity of itself when it comes to Star Trek.
Okay. So this doesn't do the brand damage that Acolytes did.
And yes, led by Asians. Sorry. Go ahead.
Rob, go.
The thing is, I have so many thoughts about this. First of all, what you have, I think, and I have to go back, and what we have in the modern age is we have these IPs that can be very lucrative for the creators that come in to work on them. So with Star Trek, you had Bad Robot come in and make Star Trek 09, Star Trek Into Darkness, and Star Trek Beyond. And Bad Robot was interested in those from a business perspective. They thought, okay, we can work in these great IPs and we're going to make a lot of money. The problem is all three of those Star Trek movies underperformed. People are always saying to me, well, Star Trek 09 was a success. No, it really wasn't. It didn't even make $500 million, and it cost over 250 to make and market. It was not a success. Into Darkness was less of a success, and Star Trek Beyond was less of a success. And then Bad Robot was not allowed to have all the merchandising rights, and if they did, they wouldn't have made any money because nobody wanted the merchandise from the new movies. They tried to do a video game. It didn't turn out very well, and they cut ties with the video game company. Then J.J. Abrams and crew go over to do Star Wars, and that becomes a Bad Robot production, and that's why, you know, C-3PO has a red arm, and the Millennium Falcon has a square dish, a rectangular dish, because everybody wanted their taste. When Secret Hideout and Alex Kurtzman, remember Alex Kurtzman co-wrote Star Trek 09 and Star Trek Into Darkness, so he was already tied to the Star Trek franchise. It seemed from Paramount's perspective, oh, bring this guy in who knows. This was after Brian Fuller was deposed and thrown off Discovery. But by the way, Brian Fuller and Nicholas Meyer, who wrote and directed Star Trek II and Star Trek VI and wrote the story for Star Trek IV, he was dumped as well. He wrote a Khan miniseries that's never going to happen, which is actually pretty good. So you have people, first of all, that are working on these IPs, especially the Bad Robot Secret Hideout crowd, that don't like these IPs. They've taken them over to make money. That's their only purpose. And then they hire a bunch of writers. I mean, you would think Star Trek is going to be 59 years old this year. And you would think from a corporate standpoint that anybody you hire to work on these shows better know the show, which requires a working knowledge of 59 years of not just shows and movies, but ancillary products. People made a point today on a show I was on earlier. The Star Wars video games are more interested in preserving the lore and being more interesting in delving into, say, the Sith than any of these modern shows are. Why give Leslie Headland a Star Wars show? What is her credentials? What does she know about Star Wars? Doesn't matter. She did Russian Doll. Let's let her make a show. This show is the final. What this show says to me is they've finally decided that we can allow people that have never watched Star Trek, like this show. First of all, Philippa Georgiou's from the Mirror Universe. The Mirror Universe was introduced in the second season, original series episode, Mirror Mirror, written by Jerome Bixby. The way they've treated the Mirror Universe since the second season of the first season of Discovery, they clearly never watched the original episode Mirror Mirror. And at the end of the episode, I'll make this point. At the end of the episode, Spock makes the point when our characters come back from the Mirror Universe. You know, gentlemen, it was much easier for you as civilized men to behave like barbarians than it was for barbarians to behave as civilized men. Now, any great writer would have said, there's the kernel of an idea. How does someone from the Mirror Universe come to our universe, which is what Empress Georgiou did, and make her way and make it credible? There's nothing about the way they've portrayed this character. It's a cartoon interpretation. It is an elementary school idea of what a character from the Mirror Universe would be like most of Star Trek. We are watching episodes that are written and directed by elementary school children.
She's taken from Mass Effect 2, by the way. She's Arya and Club Omega. They took this whole thing where she's just boss bitch sitting there man-spreading, and they come to her and get it. That's why she's a facsimile.
100%. And then clearly, when they decided to make Section 31, like they decided it's the CIA. It was never the CIA. They never went back and watched the episodes that Section 31 was introduced in. There's only 4 episodes you really have to watch in Deep Space Nine. You get the whole thing. Clearly, no one's ever watched that because they gave Section 31 membership cards and special uniforms and a headquarters and spaceships. And when you watch this stuff, you realize these people are not doing the work required to work within this IP.
Yes.
They're not doing, and that's the thing that kills me the most. They're not doing their own homework. So, and they're not science fiction fans. They don't have any background in creating world-built universes that audiences can believe in. Look, our fantasy universes require great fantasists like Tolkien to write them. I mean, how long did Tolkien spend developing Middle-earth before he put pen to paper? And once he wrote The Hobbit, how long did he spend fleshing out all of this stuff to make his universe believable? These assholes that make Star Trek now don't know fuck all about any of this IP, which is ridiculous because it's probably the most documented IP. If you want to get how many, there's an encyclopedia you can get. You can get star charts for this. You can get anything you want to tell you how you should. You also have the original writer's guides that the creator of the show wrote. Gene Roddenberry's writer's guide for the original series or Next Generation. You can go get them online right now. You can find out what the original creator expected of his show. Do these idiots look at that? No. Do they care to look at it? They do not. This is an embarrassment of the First Order. And you know what this says to me? It says that the corporate minders of these fuckheads don't even care about the value of their own IP, because all they've done since 2017 is devalue the franchise over and over and over and over again. Where is their audience? Where are the great, where's all the products of all the characters that are beloved from their new shows? You know what? X06 that makes their museum quality 6-scale figures. Do you know the characters that didn't sell? Saru and Michael Burnham. And it wasn't a racial issue. It was because no one gives a fuck. And they keep making this stuff. Why? Because Secret Hideout wants to hold on to that contract to get paid lots of money to make substandard product. So Paramount gets more Star Trek that they think from a corporate perspective allows the franchise to be worth more, because instead of 5 shows, now we have 10 shows, because they don't know the difference between good and bad. It's just Star Trek. And if you're trying to sell a studio to another buyer, well, we've got 10 shows now, so it ups the value of Star Trek. That's what they think, even though it doesn't, because they'll quickly find out that no one cares about these new shows. They're not going to survive in syndication the way people still watch the original Star Trek, and it was made in 1966. Nobody gives a fuck about Star Trek Discovery, and it went off the air last year.
Everyone.
Everything's so erect right now.
Everything
I can
wrong.
listen to this all day.
Everything wrong with the United States of America, and I mean this without hyperbole, is encompassed in the ideas that made this show get made in the first place. Section 31 is everything wrong with America laid bare in one metaphoric idea, and that is this show. I'm telling you, we must demand better.
I'm proud to be an American.
God dang. Rob. Nice.
How's that?
Very well
RMD,
done.
ladies and gentlemen.
Happy birthday, Robert. That was a great rant.
And by the way, you know, I said on Twitter, I was very mean on Twitter, and I wasn't mean enough yesterday.
No, you weren't.
Yeah.
No, you weren't.
One thing is,
No, look, Rob is right, man. There's a certain authenticity to every franchise that needs to be honored, because think about this. These worlds, the world building that's been done, it's been around for decades. You know, these people that the original
more than half
creators,
century in terms of Star Trek.
they've created these worlds, they've built these worlds, and fans have lived in these worlds for decades. And it's almost like, imagine if some alien came around and created an Earth 2, but never lived on Earth, never visited Earth, doesn't know anything about Earth, and tried to take you as an Earthling and drop you off and say, here's Earth. It's like, no, it's not. This doesn't feel anything like what we have lived with for our entire lives. It's phony. It's fake. It doesn't really resonate with us. This is bullshit. That's exactly what Rob is saying. They need to pay there's some authenticity to fan bases. Every single fan base there's an authentic part about that fan base that fans will recognize immediately or will reject immediately if you don't get it right. And that's the problem, that they haven't taken the time to listen to the fans. Listen to what we've been telling you this entire time. Find what works for this audience and do that. You know, that's why you just got to hire fans, because it's too much. You talk about 50 plus years of research and reading and watching. It's too much. Find fans that have loved this stuff since they were kids and hand it over to them. Let them do the writing. The directors you can find directors to direct the material, but you got to get the fandom right. And they just haven't done that. And they've just rejected us and ignored us this entire time.